There's a saying that goes something like this, that evil progresses when good men do nothing. I think the most correct way to look at that, considering that the time in which we are living in, uh, is that evil progresses when the children of God does nothing, and evil reaches a tipping point that there will come a time that the children of God can't do anything, and that's when God has to get involved. But before God gets involved, things will get crazy, and that's what we're seeing now. We're almost pretty much at that tipping point where evil can't be stopped. And some of you may not believe this, saying, "But God can always do this, God can always do that." But God left the church to do certain things, a certain responsibility. And if you look at like Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed out of the mercy of God, because evil had gotten to the point that if something didn't happen to that city, it would progress to the next city, and all of a sudden you get this progression of evil that can't be negotiated. There's no diplomacy. There's no reasoning with it. It just got to be destroyed. With that said, I want to talk to you guys about a dream that I had. The Lord really uses me in dreams. I should say He talks to me in dreams, not just for upcoming events, but for personal reasons as well. Um, so anyway, let's talk about the dream. I had this dream on December 15th, 2015, which is over a month ago, at 7 o'clock a.m. Here's the dream. Um, I was with a bunch of people, and we were outside, and we was at this big house, looked like a vacationing home, or perhaps it was someone else's house, but it was big, and it was just full of glass, pretty much like a glass house. And it was a nice day outside. We was outside playing, just doing what we was doing, enjoying ourselves, talking and chatting. And even though we were talking and chatting, there was a bit of uneasiness in the air. I didn't know why, but it just was. We began to go into the house because we felt like there was an event that was getting ready to be announced on the television. And so we all hurried to see what this announcement would be. I was the last person to come into the house, and I was the last person to enter into the room where everyone else were at that was watching TV. As I came into the room, I heard someone say that was in the room in a low voice. I wondered if they discovered the planet that's supposed to enter into this atmosphere. And as I was coming to the room, I could see the backs of everyone, but not the television set at the time. And everyone was staring at the television, and so I came exactly where the television was at. And as I walked up to the television set, I looked at everybody else, and they was pretty much staring in unbelief. And then I heard someone say, "Oh my God." As I looked at the television set, it seemed to be thousands of people sitting at some kind of sporting event. It was like being in a baseball stadium. And all of a sudden, the camera began to zoom and focus on a particular section in the ballpark and on a particular set of people sitting in the seats. The camera zoomed further in on these people, and now you have a close up of their faces. And these people look like human beings. They look normal all the way into the beginning of their mouths. And where their mouth was at, it looked like tentacles. So they looked normal from their hair, forehead, nose, and right at the bridge of their nose is the beginning of their mouths. All of that was just tentacles. It's kind of like that character in the Futurama cartoon. So they basically look like a squid. Their mouths look like squids with tentacles. Um, as I was looking at their faces and mouths, I was trying not to look so much at it because it was really, kind of like grotesque to look at. And then I heard someone say on a loudspeaker, like the loudspeaker came on, and you can hear someone begin to speak. And so someone spoke through the loudspeaker, and what they said was this: introducing the new world order. And when they said that, I'm gonna say it again. What they said was introducing the new world order. I could hear people on a television set clap and voice their approval. Wasn't everyone that was voicing their approval and clapping, but it was enough people that you can notice it. As I stood at the television set in unbelief, I was very disturbed, and I can feel the evil radiating from the television set, and I felt very nervous, and I had like a knot in my stomach because I knew this had changed everything, and that the day which we all heard about for so long, it was upon us now, and that there would be no stopping it nor turning back. This was a game changer, and their plan, which they had planned for thousands of years, would begin to come to fruition. And then I woke up. Now let's go back to what the announcer said. He said introducing the new world order. Normally they just talk about a new world order, and actually the new world order is not new, for it's simply an old order, but simply revised and revisited. I'm sorry, it's simply revisited. That's the new, basically the new world order. It's just an old plan that started with Nimrod, that was hatched over 4,000 years ago, and it's just bringing it back to the past. But when he said the new world order, that means there would have to be added elements, uh, added elements from the Nimrod, Assyrian, Babylonian order, and perhaps some kind of revision to it in order for their plans to be accommodated. And this is perhaps why the announcer said the new world order, the new world order, that there would be something else added to it. So, what could this new world order be beyond the revisiting of an ancient plan? Um, Obviously, it would be everything that was contained within the old order of things, but it also must contain um, the majority of the world being on one accord against God, against the plan of God, against the word of God, and the people will be as one. We know that has to come. We know that it has to be some kind of stargate, some kind of portal. Perhaps that's why the CERN Hadron Collider that smashes the atoms, that's in Switzerland and France on the border, with the Shiva god of destruction and doing an evil dance. Maybe that's probably why all that is there. So we have to have that with an added element associated with it. Well, one thing I want to talk about, which most Christians, for whatever reason, refuse to acknowledge, is fear. See, fear, like Joshua in the Bible, he was Moses' understudy. Can you imagine what Joshua saw before he was with Moses, and then when he was Moses' second in command, so to speak? The miracles that he seen, the things from God, the supernatural occurrences that he saw with his own eyes, that he experienced. And yet when Moses died, and you can read this in Joshua chapter 1, um, the first thing that the Creator came to Joshua and said, meditate on my words, and he began to tell him several times not to fear. Look at Joshua's resume, and yet the Creator is telling him, don't fear. Obviously, there was something that was getting ready to come that would have elicit fear from him, because fear was in him. No one on this planet that I know of have the resume that Joshua had before Moses. And remember, Joshua was the guy in war commanded the sun and the moon to stand still, and it did. And yet he still had fear in him. So before you say you don't have any fear, you're lying to yourself. The Bible says the only person that knows the heart of man is God. So everyone has fear in them. How can I be so sure? Because fear is the number one. It's the number one sin, or it's the most. It is the sin that's mentioned the most in the Bible, which is fear. And number two on the list is not even close. We exhibit fear when God does something different in our lives, and it's Him. So you can't imagine that this announcement of the new world order, it has fear in it, because fear and wickedness and evil comes with this, and none of us alive have ever seen this day. And these are ancient evil, and no matter how much you say, hey, God, God didn't work with me, God didn't told me, or I don't feel any fear, when your back is truly against the wall, and maybe you don't have any electricity, and maybe there's no lights, I don't know how much food you have stored up, when your whole life is changed, and when you can't buy nothing for real, those days are coming. You don't know what's in you unless God showed you and took it out. If God has not showed you and taken it out, then you got fear in you. Everyone has fear. No one has ever seen an evil day like this that's approaching. No one alive have. And even if God has taken fear out of you, there's the human experience, the human sensation of experiencing something the very first time that will radically change your life forever. And that brings about fear by itself. I'm not trying to convince nobody or anything. I'm just really trying to help people. There will be an announcement soon. God told me soon. I'm not sure if it's His soon or our soon that they are going to announce this. And God had told me this. I can't think it was before the dream. No, I take that back. It was after the dream. I was praying, and God told me they were going to announce this pretty soon. Before I close, I want to say this. Don't blow this off. We have become like the frog in the pot, and we don't realize that the temperature has been turned up, and we're actually boiling. We hear so much things, so much what's happening in the world, that we becoming desensitized to it. Here we go again. It's just something else. But that's the problem of hearing things or looking at things from the internet or television instead of hearing from God yourself. You take the risk of being desensitized. And remember, 1929 Germany looked just like this. And there's two ladies that survived the Holocaust, and they have a book called When Government Becomes God. And they would tell you that personally, because they still live in their 90s, that this is what it looks like. Well, everyone be blessed. Be prepared.